Hi everyone, and welcome to the bonus podcast for episode 475 of Conversation Street. She's Gemma.
Yeah.
And I'm Michael.
Oh, was I supposed to say and he's Michael?
You were, that's our thing.
Oh God, well we
Our
can't
new thing we're
restart this
starting
again.
today.
This is the third time.
This is the third time I've recorded this intro, so I just waffled on about nothing. So I'm going to be succinct and to the point.
What are we
This
doing?
is a listener question segment.
Hooray!
Hooray. Thank you everybody who sent us all your lovely listener questions. We have got them in a big old database on my computer and we are working our way through them. And we have got 2 questions to mull over today. First of which is from John.
Thank you, John.
Gemma, what does John have to say?
Which character from the 60s or the 70s that is no longer appearing would most fit into current Corrie?
Ooh, you know what? This time last year, we were knee deep, maybe even waist in 60s and 70s Coronation Street, and it's kind of feeling now that it's a long time ago.
I have nostalgia for those.
I do. I've got
those idyllic days of when there were only 2 episodes of Coronation Street a week for current Corrie.
3.
And we had less work to do, and I was on furlough every other month, which is great. And we would just watch old Corrie, and it was amazing.
I know.
And it was all really good as well.
I know exactly what you mean. It does feel like we're nostalgic in a weird way now, and I'm kind of, got a hankering to go back and watch some of those old 60s and 70s episodes.
They
and
were
some
great.
of the episodes, some of the characters, some of the stories, they're already kind of fading from my mind a bit. So I'll do our best to answer this
quickly,
one.
before we run out of memories.
Oh, well, we've got 10 years left of DVDs to watch, and then we'll be able to head back again.
That sentence.
Of podcasting left, of life left. And then we'll definitely go back, because I've already got some in my head, ideas of 60s and 70s episodes that I want to watch. So John wants to know which characters from that era would fit into current Corrie today.
This is a really interesting question, because it presupposes that these characters are very much of their time.
Yes.
How much do you think that's really true?
Some of them are definitely of their time. I mean, I think there's some characters
Tommy Deacon. I don't think you could have Tommy Deacon in current Corrie.
You have rag and bone men these days, don't you?
I think it would not be politically correct.
There's a few like that. There's a few characters that I think you'd have to change them a bit too much. I mean, I think with pretty much any character in the 60s or 70s, really, you'd have to give them a few tweaks. I don't know whether there's many people who could just walk off the street in the 60s and 70s and stroll into the Rovers now. For one thing, they'd be in black and white. And half of them would be anyway. But no, I think everyone would need a little change, but it's whether that change would erase what made them special and makes them then, or would they just be somebody who looked like them? And it's
not just that as well. It's not just the era that they are appeared in. It's also would they fit in with the current crop of characters and stories that we have?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know whether, as well, if we were to take one of these characters, would they be a main character? Would they be a side character? Would they have more screen time now than they did back in the past? If we were going to get somebody like, I don't know, Doreen Lowstock to pop into modern Coronation Street,
is it not Lostock?
Oh, it is Lostock, isn't it? I was trying to remember, but I thought we used to say it wrong, and now I've just gone round in a circle again, saying it wrong again. Or would they be a character that was, a major player back in the early days of Coronation Street, but would be more a side character now? I don't know if that's going to come into our discussion at all. And is there anybody that really, really represented the era of the 60s and 70s, and it just, destroy their character to?
Some of these are going to be difficult to try to work it out, because they spanned a longer period of time. So, for example, not Rita. Who am I thinking of?
Yeah,
hang on, Betty. So Betty came in, and she was middle-aged, and she ended up being an old lady. So when you think, would Betty be able to fit into modern Corrie? We're not talking about Betty from
crotchety old
10,
cranky
50.
Betty.
When was she last in it? 10 years ago?
She died in 2012, 2011.
So she would obviously fit in, because she was only just in it not that long ago.
But if we're thinking of darts playing, side-eye, younger Betty, who had a bit more pep and verve. I think she's a good choice, really, to start off, because I think she would definitely fit in today.
I think she would as well. I think she'd be like a friend. She'd be like Mary's cool friend, Like she's slightly batty, but she also...
Betty.
But she's not as crazy as Mary, for example, but she's certainly like, you know, a bit sturdy, but also takes no nonsense.
I don't know why you're saying old Betty was Batty Betty. I thought that she had her head screwed right on. I think that she was a definite, strong, powerful. I mean, she took over. She came after her sister Maggie, didn't she? And she was by far the better sister.
Yeah, she was way better than.
Yeah, I think that Betty would definitely fit. What about Bet though?
Yeah, I don't know about Bet because
I'm not sure.
Young Bet. Now she was a bit more. See, it's really hard as well for me to work out in my mind and like put a cut-off point where I'm gonna separate this person into two different people and say, because obviously older Bet was very sure of herself, very confident and bolshy and brassy, whereas younger Bet was a bit more troubled and she had man issues and she had a heart broken and she was a bit more fragile, I think.
Yeah, I would also say that older Bet was a little bit more caricature-y Bet as well. Yeah, I think that they really went to town with the leopard skin, the beehive, and everything.
She became a caricature of herself. She felt later times.
Yeah,
but she was still a bit of a go-go dancing, you know, plastic.
She was, but I mean,
Mary wearing.
She also wore a lot of brown in the 70s as well.
Everybody did.
I think that somebody like Bet could fit in just as a nice, bubbly girl. I don't know. I think that
I'm not sure how old she was when she came in.
I can't remember.
I don't know. It's difficult to judge. Everybody looked older in the old days. What about Elsie Tanner? Now she's the queen of the street, isn't she? Would she fit into current Corrie?
I think she would, and the reason I think that is because we have Carla.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I put them in the same sort of camp.
Of her. The thing is, though, I don't want to be mean to Carla, but Elsie was way more fun, even at her most dull, than Carla is. But I just cannot separate in my mind Elsie from chain smoking, and I don't know whether they would have a chain smoking main character who was supposed to like in Coronation Street, because
these are the little tweaks that you can have, isn't it? Give her a vape like they did with Liz.
As society moves away from glamorising smoking, it's turned from something that everybody does, something that glamorous people do, and then now it's if you want to establish somebody as a villain immediately, just have them smoking.
I think the other thing about Elsie as well, didn't she always go over a little bit over the top with the glitz and the glam and the costumes and everything that didn't really fit in? She got
into trouble with the wardrobe department quite a lot because she used to go and buy her own outfits and she would always spend far too much money.
Yeah,
and she was supposed to be like a dowdy. If you look at cast photos and behind the scenes pictures of her initially. When she first came in, she was a bit on the plumper side, a bit more dowdy, and as she gained her status, confidence and being a star, she became far too glamorous, really, for what the character was
and I would say
to be.
These days, a lot of the characters are, you know, on average, are more glamorous than they were back in the 60s and 70s, which is why I think that she maybe it wouldn't stand out quite so much today.
I think that her. Like, if, say, you had... So, she was my age when she started... Like, Pat Phoenix was my age when she started in Corrie. So, you're talking Toya, Maria, Fizz kind of character age.
Yeah.
Now, imagine those characters if they were wearing... like, always wore a tea dress and... I don't know, what...
She did come across as being a lot more worldly wise and sensible than... Toya and Maria and Fizz do, who still to me seem like young and fun.
That's because we're that age.
We're them, and I'm just desperately clinging on to.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what the modern equivalent of what Elsie wore, because of the era that she was in at the very beginning of the show. It was the fashion was still influenced from the 50s, so it was all really classic shapes and lines and. You know, very prim and proper. But I don't know, if Elsie was around now, I imagine her fashion being more a kind of Michelle Keegan style, where it's like midriff showing like loungewear and horrible velour tracksuits and stuff.
I think the other thing with Elsie as well maybe to consider is how much of her character was influenced by the fact that she went through the war and she was Was she,
Yeah,
she wasn't one of the land girls, was she? Was working
she was a good time girl.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she wasn't she?
So what would be the equivalent for
I don't.
somebody?
That's the thing with the Second World War. There's no equivalent.
See, this is the thing. This is the thing about a lot of the early characters is, like the flightiness of some of the women and the kind of the grumpiness of the men. There was a backstory that didn't need to be told to you as to why these people had this emotional baggage.
Yeah.
And nothing to the same equivalent kind of exists for people. And, you know, unless she's, like, what's her background? Elsie was, she's current time, like, she was a Disney star who then went on a USO tour around Europe and, not Europe, like the Middle East, and entertained the troops. And then came back and saw horrific war crimes when she was out there. I don't know. I
think that she could work quite well though.
But the thing is though, I mean, we're putting them into Karen Corrie. Is there too much of a clash then between Elsie and Carla? Because I can see them not getting on, but I can also see them loving each other.
I would quite like the idea of
like a rival.
Rivalry, exactly, between those two, both these glamour pusses amongst the working class of Weatherfield.
Yeah, the thing is, I really love most of these characters. I've got this real fondness in my heart for a lot of these characters, so I'm just going to say yes to all of them because I love them so much. Like, for example, we've got Rita.
I was just going to say, as much as I love somebody like Hilda, though, I don't think that Hilda would fit in today. I think her naivety wouldn't really fly today. I think it might come across as being just stupid. a bit dumb.
This is the trouble we have with Kirk.
Yeah, and because she like, you know, you understand why she wasn't educated. She left school when she was 16 or whatever, maybe even younger, and you can kind of understand why she didn't get everything, and she was people take
and just sorry carry on.
No, but okay, I think these days it'd be like, no, don't be silly. That doesn't fit. The whole look with the hair curlers and the tabard and everything. And I know we had a little bit of that with Evelyn when she first came into it, but I think that she is definitely of an era. Sadly, I don't think she would fit in today.
And also the other thing is the poverty that she lived in at the time was not an unusual sort of state of affairs. But were she to live on the street now, she would be far worse than most of the stand. Nobody on the show lives hand to mouth in the same way that the Ogdens did.
Yeah, remember the first time they popped up in the show and Hilda's like, oh, this place has got 2 taps. What would be the modern equivalent of moving to a place and being surprised that it had 2 taps?
I don't think we have. I think we're so lucky and privileged we don't even realise. And I know that people struggle, and there are people now who are really, in dire straits. But the kind of real bare bones poverty that Stan and Hilda endured in their time on the street, and the coal fires and the no heating in any of the rooms, no central heating. That was just kind of normal. But even for the street, they were poor, and they were they rented.
And what's the equivalent of that on the Coronation Street now? Like Gemma and Chesney?
I think they're probably the closest ones. But think of all the things they have. And the reason that they're poor is that they had 4 children at once.
Yeah, that doesn't help, does it?
And they turned down a lucrative offer.
Fresh code marketing.
I'm not even ever going to...
What about... I think I'd probably say the same with Stan Ogden as well. I
said Stan as well,
Oh, did you? Yeah. I'm not sure about Irma might... I mean, her look is definitely of the 60s.
I know, it's really difficult to separate the way these characters looked too from their personalities, because some of them are so iconic.
She was just fun and flighty, and I think there's plenty of fun, flighty characters these days.
There's room for a fun Liverpudlian lady on Coronation Street now. And
I love
also,
the Liverpool accent.
Her sarcasm reminds me very much of current David, I think. And she was kind of meta and commented on things being ridiculous in the same way that David kind of. It's not exactly, fourth wall breaking, but... You can tell that Irma and David both very much feel like they're above everything that's happening. And I think she would fit in perfectly in Karen Corrie, because I think that her sense of humour is a is very in now, you know, that sarcasm, that dry.
No, I agree. I think that she might work.
But I also am going to say, I think Coronation Street characters were far wittier on the whole in the 60s and 70s than they are now. I don't think there's a lot of...
Well, yeah, a lot of the humour now is...
laughing at people or stupid situations, whereas I think that they were quicker and there was much better banter back in the day.
Another character that I don't think would fit in as much as I would love for a character like this to work is somebody like Annie Walker. I think that I think to have a character that is quite so...
snobby.
Quite so snobby and Hyacinth Bouquet-ish.
Isn't Evelyn a bit like that?
No, because she was...
I think
the
lack of self-awareness is something that current characters need a bit of that, really, because that's what audiences want out of them.
I mean, Evelyn is... she's got no... She doesn't pretend that she's upper class or anything like that, does she? I mean, she was nicking stuff from Debs
she's
when
like,
she came into
I'm
the
a
show.
plain-spoken, common woman with common sense, is what she would kind of describe herself as.
Are there people around today that are still like Annie Walker? Maybe, probably, but I don't know.
Don't know any.
Would you say were they more common back in those days? Probably not as well.
Am I Annie Walker? Yeah, I think maybe.
I don't know. I just don't think that she would fit. Whereas somebody like Jack Walker maybe could, just as a nice, friendly granddad sort of figure. I think he would absolutely fit in today. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the current character that's closest to him maybe is Roy, perhaps. No,
I tell you what, you young people, the calibre of grandparents, I feel bad for you because our grandparents all fought in the war. So, what you got?
I know someone else who definitely wouldn't slot right in today because he'd be too un-PC. Fred G.
Fred G. I mean, I think he was so much of a stereotype, and he was like a bawdy Blackpool postcard come to life, like pinching bums and
he basically was. He was Benny Hill.
Yeah, basically, without the music.
Yeah, and I think that to take that away from him, to tone him down for modern sensibilities, would lose some of what made Fred G kind of fun. And we did enjoy Fred, didn't we? We felt bad for him when the people behind the bar were making fun of him. You have to enjoy
things as they are.
Yeah, I don't think that he would work.
He wouldn't work. I also think that a lot of the older men wouldn't work, like Albert Tatlock and Leonard Swinley and...
they're just a bit too stuffy and like you said, war-worn. And a bit too traditional.
Who... You haven't got...
I have written a list here of... No, Percy wasn't. He was in the 83.
Okay.
Came in, I think.
So and Frank Barlow, I don't know, he was very set in his ways. Harry Hewitt... All these guys were...
Harry Hewitt, definitely. His attitude of, I have my woman cook my dinner and she puts the food on the table and when she's not here, then it's going to be you, Lucille, that cooks it for me.
Is that he was he was of his time so much, and I don't begrudge him his opinions because that was how it was. And he wasn't being unreasonable, but if you were to transplant him now to current times, he would be incredibly offensive and really unpleasant. But he was actually quite a likeable kind of...
Oh, yeah,
chap.
Harry Hill did like him.
And
Harry Hewitt.
He put in the work. He put in what he thought was his fair share of work, which was going out to earn the money. And then, he expected the women in his life to provide the womanly, the cooking the dinner and cleaning up and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of really masculine, patriarchal figure... doesn't really exist anymore.
It doesn't really fly these days.
And it wouldn't
more,
work.
All this equality with the sexes, isn't it?
It's not very nice. It's not a very nice way to be in the current time. But he just reminds me of like the dad in an old American movie puffing on his pipe, watching the kids doing their disco dancing or whatever.
I can't. We're seeming to be finding a lot more people that wouldn't fit in at the moment.
Well, I don't think that's wrong.
Maybe I'm struggling more. I mean, somebody like maybe Minnie Caldwell could fit in. I mean, I said Jack could as just like the nice soft old granddad. I still think that there'd be a place for somebody like Minnie.
Can I just say about what I was saying about older people, like grandma and granddads? What are grandma and granddads like now? I don't think they're the same. I don't think they're the same anymore.
Well,
I think they're a bit more...
knitting a bobble hat, kind of.
Yeah, like, do grandparents give Werther's Originals out anymore? I don't know. Aren't they cooler and, a bit more sprightly and
I don't know.
Instead of sitting and talking about how it was good in the good old days, aren't they like off doing a hiking trek around the Himalayas or something?
I don't know. I'm sure that there are little old lady grandparents still around these days.
I know, but the thing is,
I think that Minnie
feel like those were the authentic grandparents back in the day who fought Nazis and now they're knitting you something. I mean, don't get that anymore.
What about Ina then? As we're talking about, the snug tree. I can't remember much about Martha to comment on her, but Ina could maybe fit. She was again very, very traditional in her views, wasn't she?
Is she not just Granny Spellman?
Yeah, but a nice version of her.
But was she the thing? Yeah, Granny Spellman, if she stuck around, could have been this. I think we're a lot more judgmental, and also society's moved on a bit more from where Ina was. So. Because Ina was so intolerant of people, I don't know whether we would allow that. Back in the day, you could be a horrible cow to everybody and be really judgmental, and everyone would just be like, "That's just Ina. She's just really religious." Whereas now you'd be like, "Gosh, she's a bigot. She's a homophobe and a bigot."
Maybe I don't know what she would say about some of the goings on the street at the moment. Quite possibly not. Although when the gypsies were in Coronation Street in the 70s, she was accepting of them, wasn't she? So it's not like she's
okay. Yeah, I don't want to malign her. I just think she was very old fashioned and she's very religious. I would think, I don't know. I think there's place for somebody like that who's very, very judgmental, but I'm not sure about the religious aspect. I think that Coronation Street doesn't really like religious people anymore.
I just think that some of the older characters would maybe fit in more. I think it's a lot of, in my head, a lot of the characters that are our age or younger, it would feel out of place in modern world. But once you reach a certain age, once you hit 70, 75, 80 or so, you're just an old person. And I think generally old people back then were probably quite similar to old people right now, or you could let them get away with
people and see what they're like.
I
reckon Brian Tilsley would fit right in. I think
I don't at all.
Not his hair.
He'd have to have a haircut, yeah.
Not his hair, but I think the beefcake kind of. I think he'd be a CrossFitter, and like a womanising CrossFitter is what he'd be like.
I mean, I suppose he's not dissimilar to maybe Jason Grimshaw.
Yeah.
Possibly.
He's just the hunk of the moment who he's not particularly bright, but he kind of knows what he wants out of life, which was a family and a wife, and then that didn't work out and he just went and strayed. He's the perfect current Corrie character.
Yeah.
If you were introduced to him, you'd be like, he's a ladies' man. Yeah. He's got an eye for the women.
So our little change of him would be his appearance,
basically
maybe.
His hair, and he wouldn't be going on the Krypton Factor, he'd be going on what's it called? Ninja
Warrior UK, yeah, he'd be on. Speaking of hair, I mean, what about someone like Ray Langton? Again, if he had his hair cut, would Ray Langton fit in today?
Yeah, because Ray and Len were like
I think Len
Kevin.
would. Len in my head is definitely cut from the same cloth as Owen Armstrong.
Gruff, slightly unpleasant, doesn't really care if you like him or not. Out for himself, but he's still got, he's got a nice streak to him, but he doesn't suffer fools gladly at all. Yeah, you're right, like Owen, kind of a bit like Patterfield.
Yeah, like a proper alpha male of the street. I think that he would
Kevin
fit in relatively well.
Kevin, very much like that. He's rants and bants.
Yeah. Anyone else? I mean, some of the characters that I'm thinking of still from the 60s and 70s are still in it today, whereas John didn't want that. But I mean, we could say, like, would a 70s Rita Littlewood fit into the show today? Would 70s Ken fit into the show today? I mean, quite possibly.
70s Ken is kind of like Daniel.
Yeah. Rita, I don't know. If I'm thinking, Weatherfield Songbird Rita, maybe not. Club singer isn't really. I mean, what would she be today?
She would be just a lounge singer.
Yeah.
People still do live singing.
Yeah. Do you think that
she'd have her Spotify? What's it called? Account and
yeah.
She'd be trying to sell you her tapes and CDs and stuff, trying to get you to download her
Well,
music.
I just thought as well, speaking of the youth of the street, and this year is all about the teens on the street, would Lucille Hewitt fit in right alongside, you know, Summer and Asher? I think if you were to just pick her up and transplant her and say, you know, we've got a new child in class today, everybody welcome Lucille Hewitt, and she walked in, I think she maybe get made fun of a little bit.
Well, just because of how she looks.
Yeah. But, I mean, personality-wise, yeah.
She would fit in again because she's outspoken, independent, headstrong.
She wanted to keep up with the trends, didn't she? So I don't think it would take her too long to move on from, I don't know, whatever you're into in the 60s, Brett Falcon.
Which is probably not what a lot of the teens have really... I mean, I don't think the teens on the street have shown much ambition beyond I want to do well in my exams, which is not the same as being ambitious. Do you know what I'm saying?
Ardy's got his business brain on at the moment, hasn't he?
Okay.
But yeah, I know what you mean with the rest of them.
Eddie Yates, no, couldn't have Eddie now.
No, we spoke about that recently, didn't we? When we were talking about the lack of cheeky ex-cons. Oh, well, they've only robbed a few people.
Yeah, like a ducker and a diver.
Yeah. Although it was only, 10, 15 years ago that we had Graham Proctor, who's the closest.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe he would fit in, but that somebody's always on the grift. Trying to make as much money as possible. I
don't know. He feels of an era to me.
He's another one I can't really separate from chain smoking.
Yeah, somebody like David Barlow maybe could fit in because
he would just be Tommy Orpington without being.
Well, I think that Tommy evil. Orpington is a lot more. Is supposed to be, not that he's been in many episodes, as a bit cooler and celeb kind of footballer than David was. David was just a plain old guy who happened to be also
on the up. Yeah, but this was before the era of celebrity footballers as well. Don't forget.
Well, so maybe he wouldn't be very fit in because he was a good footballer that didn't have the celebrity leanings.
He was getting paid a lot more money than everybody else on the street because when Emma and David first started going out, Emma was surprised to sort of be launched into a world where she had a lot more money to spend on things than her parents did. But they weren't celebrities in the same way that they were, and they wouldn't become celebrities for... we're talking about the era when...
You had the George Bests, though, didn't you?
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, this was the era when they first began to emerge, sort of moving into the 70s as celebrities. Yeah. So this was like the beginning, but, that's not what David was.
No, not at all. I think that he was just a normal kind of guy. I think he probably would fit in as a sort of Tyrone. And same with Jerry Booth as well, as a bit of an everyman.
But he's more like a James Bailey than a...
Yeah, I guess so. Ivy, maybe, again, the same possible problem with the over-traditionalist views than Enid did. But it's not like people these days, nobody has those views.
I think Coronation Street's way more scared of religion than they have been in the past.
Yeah.
I would really like to see them tackle some of these characters, some personality types where, and it doesn't matter to me what religion you are, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Catholic, a Protestant. All of these religions have conservative types who are very much in the mould of Ivy, where they're really traditional. They want you to, the family's the most important thing, being modest and following rules. I think that Coronation Street's scared of offending people, and I don't think that they would have somebody like Ivy in it now, because I think they get loads of people complaining that they were being horrible to Catholics.
I'm sure that in other soaps there are religious characters whose religion is very, very important to them, and they stick to it. Stick to their principles, whereas on Coronation Street you have people like Billy who's shooting up in the church.
Yeah, I know, but I think that number one, I think they feel much freer to criticise Christianity and hypocritical Christians than they do any other sort of person. And I also think that that they shy away from doing too much with any other religion because they're scared of criticism. So when the Nazirs came in, I was thinking there are so many really interesting things that we could explore that
with Islam
are unique to them because they're Muslim, and Coronation Street just kind of ran away from that. And I know that there was some ideas that were floated that were vetoed by various people for fairly good reasons. But I just think that I think that having a really kind of conservative Muslim granny who was trying to stop her grandkids from drinking and stuff, because it's really interesting. The Muslim children, we had Zidane and Alia, it felt like they were imposing the rules on themselves, which was a progressive view of that religion, isn't it? Because
I agree.
Nobody can criticise you for imposing your own set of rules on yourself if they're a bit stricter. But say, for example, Zidane and Alia were both being told you can't drink, you can't go out, and it was Sharif who was doing it, that would have opened up the show to accusations of a negative stereotype of Muslim families. But is it not also a true depiction of what some families are like?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So why is that, Coronation Street scared of that kind of thing, but they don't mind, like what you said, having a vicar taking drugs in a church?
Yeah. So with Ivy then, do you think that'd be similar? People would...
I just think because Catholics aren't a large group in this country.
No, that's true.
I can see why they don't do it. I'm not saying that they should necessarily, and I think it's probably a good idea to sort of step away from controversy as much as possible. I wouldn't want to be the person who said, let's rile up the Catholics and put a really annoying homophobic what's the worst stereotypes you can imagine of somebody religious, is put that onto this sort of a person.
Yeah, I mean that you who was it you were comparing to Granny Spellman earlier? Was it Ina? Because I think that Ivy Tilsley could also be one of Granny Spellman's mates at the moment.
But you see what I mean? It's on Corrie, it feels as though the only characters that get criticised for their religion are the ones who are Christian. And they're the only ones that really go through a crisis of faith. Although Alia did go through her kind of rebellious phase, but it's very difficult when you're talking about a minority religious group in a country where that people are already discriminated against because of the way they look and what religion they follow. It just seems like there's a lot of other things that they could do. But that's why the older episodes are a bit more interesting sometimes, because Ivy was very Catholic and she was very stuck in her ways, and I actually felt sympathetic towards her. I
really did.
I know that some people really hated her and thought that she was terrible,
was awesome.
But I also just appreciated the fact that she was just honestly
she stuck kind to her principles, and that's what she was. But the thing is, though,
there are people that are like that.
Yeah.
In real life, and it's down to it. And I think the thing is, the show let you decide for yourself. Because I think it shows me that because of the different reactions people took out of it. Because we both watched the same sort of thing and went, I feel sorry for her. Other people watched it and said, oh no, she's a terrible person.
Yeah,
so that makes me think that there was a bit of room for interpretation there. And I think that's kind of lost a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe.
In modern Corrie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, I think we got a few names there, didn't we, of people who would fit, but maybe for the majority that we were talking about, we decided they were stuck in the past.
But I think there's a few really good ones, and it would be fun. And as I keep saying, I would just love people to use this computer technology and to maybe imagine a Coronation Street that could never have been otherwise. Like, let's make a Coronation Street with Elsie and Carla in it at the same time.
Well, I mean, the fan fiction sites are still up and running,
I can't use my imagination. I want to see it.
Animation.
No, I don't want an animated
CGI Coronation Street
generated.
Time crash crossover thing.
Yeah, let's when we win the lottery, we'll set up a division to churn those out.
Right, second question then, Gemma, and this is from Navdeep. This is a nice summery one, isn't it? Good for this time of the year. It's been very, very hot week in the UK this week, although the heavens are due to open any minute now and just keep on pouring for the next week or so Gemma's looking forward to that. But just in case not, Navdeep would like to know which 5 Coronation Street couples we would invite to our house for a summer barbecue.
We've got to have 10 people round. That's quite a lot.
Well, I know. It's all right. We're allowed to at the moment. I think the guidelines say that's fine.
No, you're allowed 6 people.
Oh, are you? Oh, yeah, you are, aren't you? Well, let's just pretend.
This is in the end. This is in August.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So the tail end of summer, who would we invite round for barbecue? Do love a nice barbecue.
It's still summer till mid-September, Michael.
Oh, yeah, fine.
It isn't even actually technically summer yet.
Gemma, what sort of thing do you like in a barbecue
Well, you
guest?
asked me this the other day, and it was really funny because they're all food orientated with me. When I entertain people with food, I put a lot of effort and time and energy into planning and preparing and cooking and tidying, and I buy nice plates, and like if I like cooking Japanese food, so I have an entire set of miso soup bowls and chopsticks and side plates and pickle trays and all this kind of stuff. And I like cooking Indian food, so I bought a lot of thali plates. So I go all out to try to be authentic and make delicious food and cater to people's dietary needs. So I wouldn't mind if I had everybody was vegetarian. But what I do mind is if you don't like food and if you're not interested in food and you're going to be fussy. There's a real difference between having a dietary requirement and being a fussy git. So what I wouldn't like is people coming over and I've prepared for my barbecue, I've prepared like say a spicery kit or something where I've made, we're going to have an Indonesian barbecue. Yeah. So I've done satay and
so you want people that are a bit more adventurous.
I don't want them Tim coming and going, I just wanted a burger.
Or Kevin,
And then only refusing to eat things and picking at them and saying they don't like it and they won't try it. That's what I would hate.
It's a shame that we have to bring the couples together, because I think having Abby over for a barbecue might be quite fun.
But she can leave Kevin at home.
Yeah, she's not allowed to. She'd be great for the entertainment factor and the bants, which I think is quite important for a barbecue. I'm sure listeners, you can imagine that I'm not the best barbecue guest.
No, you're rubbish.
I kind of, at the first opportunity, scuttle away to the kitchen and do some washing up, because it means I don't have to interact socially with people. Yeah. So I don't know whether my ideal barbecue guest would be characters that I don't really want to talk to, or maybe it would be somebody who could convince me to stay outside.
So say I invited Kevin and Tim and Tyrone or whatever.
Oh, they just talk about football. I wouldn't want that.
But listen, I would then make them the best burger they've ever had. But if they just didn't care, that would take the wind right out of my sails. I want to enjoy food with people and talk to them about what they're eating and ask them questions about it. And, you know what I mean? I wouldn't to me, the barbecue is about the food and enjoying food and delicious food.
Would you want to choose guests who would bring their own food? Do you like when... So you
listen. Also, the other thing I'm really bad at is anything other than food and drink. So I invite you around, I feed you, and then you're there, and I'm like, right, now you leave because I've fed you and we've done the food bit. I don't know why we're hanging and talking to each other.
So do you want somebody who's going to provide you entertainment?
No, it's my own personal struggle. I need to work more on my entertainment side and less on my just making people eat.
So you want somebody who's not going to outstay their welcome then? Somebody who gets the hint.
I do want somebody who might go away.
And when it's time to leave.
Roy would be great at that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Roy would go, it's now 5 p.m. and your invitation clearly stated 3 to 5. And I'd be like, Roy, sorry, I haven't even given you any food.
But sadly, Roy is off the table here because he's not in a relationship. He's not part of a couple, is he?
Can you come with Nina?
No, not allowed.
You asked me whether I'd like people who bring food.
Yes.
Yes, but don't just bring me a tub of coleslaw that you bought from Tesco. But also, don't upstage me by growing your own cabbage and your own carrots and making mayonnaise from scratch and then bringing coleslaw that shows up everything else I've cooked.
Well, I think somebody like Sally would be good to come along. She'd bring something. I think she'd probably try really hard to make it fancy and posh, but wouldn't do quite as good a job as you.
I can imagine Sally, because actually I bought the same book that she's got on one of her shelves. She's got this really old St Michael's entertainment, like when Marks and Spencer's used to be called St Michael's. I think it's from there, or Good Housekeeping or something, like this really funny 80s entertaining book. So I can imagine her coming round and saying that she's made a gelatin salad or something really.
I'd quite like Sally and Abby both to be guests. Couldn't we just invite them along and then just put Tim and Kevin in a corner somewhere, give them a little mini fridge of beer or something, and then just don't have anything to do with them for the rest of the day?
Or here's an idea: invite them when a football match is on, and then they just won't come. they'll say they're ill, and then they can
I
stay
think that
home.
you're bending Navdeep's rules here.
Oh man!
So
what are your?
Well, I'm thinking. Well, like I said, it's.
You don't care about the food. You don't do the cooking.
I do care about the food.
What do you care about? Yeah,
Maybe
as far as
I quite
guests
like it
are
plain
concerned.
and simple.
Yeah,
But
I know you do.
tell you what, one thing about food at barbecue, there's always lots of food left over, isn't there? And then we have to eat it for the next few days. So maybe I'd quite like Coronation Street guests who would not
Hoover up the leftovers.
Yeah, so but I'm not. But I don't know whether I'd want Gemma to come along. Gemma and Chesney,
No,
that'd be
I
a
would
bit of a
not
buzzkill.
like-
If I've only got 5 couples here,
Gemma and Chesney not allowed to come round because they're too uncouth.
yeah. Oh, and somebody who would offer to do the washing up for me would be lovely because it that does always fall to me, and there's often.
Who's done the washing up all this week?
Gemma has done lots of washing up this week, but at barbecues. But maybe that's. I mean, it's a bit self-inflicted, like I said, because it's my excuse to escape the social
love it.
situation. Okay, so who have we got then?
Okay, right.
I mean, I think
and
that.
also, listen, I also like a tipple. I'd like to make cocktails for people. I don't want people that are going to get completely bladdered and like vomit on themselves.
Oh no! Again,
So-
I think Gemma and Chesney are pretty much
Definitely
off the table
get
here,
rid
aren't
of.
they?
The thing is, I think
Strike
this is
them
going to be a
off.
process. Actually, this is going to be a process of elimination rather than actually who do we really want round.
I
So
mean, we want Imran and Toya, don't we?
yeah, I think even though.
they're not dissimilar to us in taste. That is a veggie.
Are you sure that you don't just want Georgia and Charlie? I think that we do. We would love Georgia.
I think that they'd both. I think that they'd be fine.
I think they'd be fun. Like I said, I will cook
not-
for anybody's dietary needs. I think that I think Toya is
I
an
think they'd be
adventurous
well behaved.
eater, even if she is a vegetarian. I think you can be a vegetarian.
How
and
many different
enjoy-
ways are there to barbecue lasagna, vegetable lasagna?
Can I just tell you, I do a very nice barbecued aubergine.
Oh yeah. And she'd have the halloumi, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Toya. I think that she'd be a definite. Not
in our-
too much drama. Sensible middle class chat.
Yes. For example, e.g., in our friend group, we have a running joke that sometimes we overcook the aubergine and then we call it an aubergine. So that would be the sort of thing that would absolutely kill
Toya
it.
would find that hilarious.
That would kill it with Toya. I'm gonna veto David and Shona because I think David would make fun of me for being precious about my food, and he'd be sarcastic about my my Indonesian prawn skewers.
I don't think that'd be too bad.
Because I really, at the end of the day, really, I am just Sally, aren't I? I am just a completely
some ways you are.
unself-aware Sally who wants an orangery.
Yeah. Tell you what then, for the entertainment factor, I think that Bernie and Dev at the moment
I was
could
going
be
to say
quite
not
fun.
Bernie and Deb because Bernie wouldn't like my fancy food, and she also would probably get a bit drunk. But if she was, I don't know, is she the sort of woman who can open her mind a bit, because we know that she's a bit spiritual. So I said to her, Bernie, this Indonesian prawn skewer actually was given to me on a vision quest when I did my meditation for the day and then consulted my crystals to see what was the most auspicious menu of the day.
Yeah.
Do you think that we could also
Might fall for that.
save the prawn tails and throw them in the air and then see how they scatter and tell each other fortunes from
Yeah.
our prawn tails?
I
So
just think that they might make quite good entertainment
be
value.
hilarious.
Is Dev vegetarian as well? I'm not sure. I'm not sure
I've
how.
never.
I mean, he runs a kebab shop, so I'm going to say maybe not.
Well,
but
if he isn't a
he
vegetarian,
has
he
shown
certainly
Hindu
profits.
leanings in the past.
He profits off the suffering of animals, so I don't think it counts.
No.
So I'm going to veto.
What?
I'm going to veto Alina and Tyrone.
I think Alina and Tyrone at the moment would just cause too much drama. We don't want that.
No, because
do
then we definitely couldn't have Fizz round, and Fizz might want to pop round even if she's not invited.
Can we just play Cupid and invite Fizz and Tyrone round? Get
No,
them back together.
I don't
Coop?
think so.
Okay. What about
So we've got Abby and Kevin.
Yeah, I think they could work if we invited Sally and Tim. I wouldn't want to invite Adam and Sarah. We might accidentally forget to invite one of them because we forget that they're a couple.
Out of who?
Adam and Sarah.
Right.
I think we'd forget they were a couple and say,
don't
"Oh,
worry.
we invited Adam and not Sarah."
What about Aggie and Ed? No, not Aggie, because she'd be like, "Oh, this is great, but have you tried putting custard as a marinade?"
But Gemma, if we're looking for entertainment factor, Ed would surely bring the tunes, wouldn't he? He'd be banging away there.
banging away
at the decks.
with his banging tunes.
Or maybe DJ would get Ryan. I think probably Ryan and Alia. They'd probably.
Alia.
I think that we'd probably get on with them.
I think
if we're thinking
would.
of people kind of our age,
as long as Alia's not showing off, I'll be alright with her.
Yeah, I think
so far we've got 3 couples. We've got Alia and Ryan,
Bernie and Dev, and Imran and Toya. Okay.
What about Emma and Curtis? We don't know Curtis.
I don't know enough about Curtis yet.
Curtis can get lost.
But he could mix us. He could cocktails, Gemma.
I know, but I don't trust him.
Why? Get a professional mixologist.
No, but I think he's up to something. I think I spend the whole time like I was when one of our friends first dated a certain person who turned out to be an evil guy in the end. And I spent the first year that we knew him trying to give him the evil eye.
But then you got on really well for a long time, didn't you?
And then he turned out to be a Judas.
Yeah. No, I think that could work. I mean, it'd give us an opportunity to learn more about him because he's been on the show on and off for 3 weeks now, and I feel that we don't know him.
No, I'm going to veto that because I think Emma would go, I don't like prawns. Oh, I don't like this Korean chicken.
I think that I was talking earlier about I want somebody to not leave us with piles and piles of food afterwards. I think that if we invited Brian and Kathy round, Kathy might just hoard it. She'd be putting it in her handbag, wouldn't she?
Yeah, she would. She'd come with her own Tupperware.
And we pretend not to see her.
I bet she would. I also think Brian and Kathy are about our social level, aren't they? Brian's a ex-teacher. Kathy's a nut job like me. I think we get on like a house on fire with Brian and Kathy because they're both idiots like us.
I think
they've got
we might get on all right with them.
Cheesy, weird sense of humour. We know that although this shouldn't really come into it, we know that Peter Gunn in real life is absolutely hilarious. So if nobody's writing for him at this barbecue, he can come up with his own lines and he'd probably be a really great laugh.
Yeah. Would you want Carla around? Your ex-favourite
Not Carla
character?
and Peter because
I think Carla likes a good barbecue because she likes everything black, doesn't she? And that's what...
No, Basheen. I'm not having Carla and Peter around because they're like the most miserable people, and also
you'd be tempted by all the booze that you'd want to have at your party. Yeah, okay.
Billy and Todd. Now this would they be fun? They're very middle class again, aren't they?
I don't know whether I'd want Billy and Todd. I think it'd be a bit too much of Billy would be a bit too much of a downer.
No, what do you mean Billy's a downer? Billy's a nice, sociable person. I think he'd be too heavy. I think he's too nice. He's not real. He wouldn't get real with you. He'd be very superficial and, oh, what a lovely barbecue this is. And you know what I mean? I think he'd be too professional and he wouldn't sort of get drunk with you and start slagging off
maybe
Sally's curtains.
Then. No, I don't know whether I'd trust Todd in the barbecue as well. I'd always be having to watch him.
He'd be scheming to make his barbecue better than mine.
Yeah.
Beth and Kirk, no. Just no.
No, definitely not. No, although... Yeah, no. I can't think of a reason.
Gary and Maria, no, because they're both boring.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't give any other reason other than that, really.
Nick and Leanne? I kind of love Nick, but he might get angry with me.
He might start asking us what colour the napkins were that we were serving.
I don't know, Nick. You tell me whatever colour you like.
No, they could be all right. I mean, Nick, Leanne, Toya and Imran together.
Yeah, but then they just talk.
Possibly.
You'd love that. You'd be like, I'll leave you guys to chat.
Yeah, they could. They could just go and talk over in the corner and leave me to hide away in the kitchen again.
And I could just get on with cooking, because that's the other thing I don't like, is when people try to help me or come and interrupt me when I'm cooking.
Oh, okay. So you don't want somebody that's going to come and take over.
With me, it's all or nothing. If you come and help me, I'll leave you to do it by yourself, because I am not a professional chef. I cannot supervise the sous chef. I cannot articulate nouns. I would become very flustered and I'd be like, cook this, cook that, I don't know, pass me the thing. And then it would be a disaster and everyone would hate me. So you either leave me alone or you do the cooking yourself.
What about going back to the idea of Sally, Tim, Abby and Kevin as a bit of a foursome, and then...
No.
Why? Just because you don't want Tim and Kevin?
No, I don't like them.
Put them together.
No, because... No.
Abby and Kevin then?
No.
Oh, man. Okay. So
because we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do we just need our fifth couple now?
So we've got
Aggie and Ed to choose from, or...
No, hang on. So our couples are Alia and Ryan, Bernie and Dev, Imran and Toya, and Brian and Kathy, which really sound like a very odd group of people for us to pick, because they're not my favourite characters, I wouldn't say. But I think that some of my favourite characters are just too chaotic
Well,
to have a nice
what about
barbecue
somebody
with.
like Tracy then?
So yeah, we're left with Aggie and Ed, and we've also got Nick and Leanne, or Steve and Tracy.
I think
I
I'm
think
kind
Nick
of...
and Leanne have got to be the
I
last
don't know,
couple for me. We don't have to agree.
I'm leaning towards Ed and Aggie here. Partly because of like what I was saying about Curtis earlier, we get to learn more about them. We could social engineer them. We've been complaining that the Baileys aren't integrating enough with the people of the street. But if we have the barbecue with these couples, we could kind
make them be friends.
We could make them be friends
Force
with each
them
other, and
into
then maybe
friendship.
they could have storylines with all these other people.
We could engineer a really harrowing experience that bonded them to one another, like sort of lock them in the garden and then blow up the gas canister for the barbecue.
I think that they'd be all right. I think that they're relatively sensational drama free, because we don't want any. Yeah, if we had Tracy round here, maybe that she would.
Tracy would
set the
ruin
garden on
something
fire.
or make fun of me again. I'm very sensitive. I think that we don't need to have. I think we can throw our own separate barbecues here.
No, I mean, we're a couple. I think we need to...
I don't think we're going to be a couple after this, because I can't agree
I think
with
we're
you.
mostly agreeing with this.
I know, but
I'll
listen,
go with Nick and Leanne
but it's kind of funny because I think I've said most of it. Well, your choice was Alia and Ryan and Benny and Dev, I think. But I think if you had your way, you'd have Abby, Kevin, Sally, Tim. Who's the other two?
Oh, I'd have Imran and Toy around. I'd have... I said potentially for David and Shona, maybe, but I see what you mean about David maybe ruin it with his snark.
So my ideal choice would be Alia and Ryan, Bernie and Dev, Brian and Kathy, Imran and Toya, and Nick and Leanne, and we would all stand around and I would drink white wine spritzers and make fun of people for not knowing what the capital of Iran was.
Would you be drinking white wine spritzers with Bernie?
Bernie?
Yeah, didn't you say Bernie was one of yours? Bernie and
Dev? Bernie, yeah, I know, but I would... See, this is the thing. I could do that, but also I could go to Bernie. Hey, Bernie, you have some bit of vodka you can put in your wine. And we could...
Maybe, yeah, okay. No, I like that. I
think probably Bernie would feel a bit uncomfortable and like everyone was being too la-di-la-la-da.
Yeah.
But I've also got that streak to me.
She might feel a bit of a fish out of water.
I've got that streak to me as well, so...
Yeah, you do. You're also a bit...
I'm also
you can be a bit common. Yeah, you grew up in a council house, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'll go with those choices.
Well, you don't have... That's it. That's my decision, because I'm doing all the cooking.
Yeah, exactly. You're the one that... If we ever have any kind of dinner party or garden party or anything, any social event that goes on around this house, it's always Gemma that organises it. So it's at the end of the day, the final decision on the characters that we're bringing around is squarely down to her.
But were it to be down to you, how would you do this? What would you plan and who would you bring? What would you eat? What would be your...
Well, I'd just make it more plain. Bit of burgers, sausages, bit of maybe ribs, but I don't get much meat on them. Little bit of chicken wings, bit of dog's willies.
You're going to have to explain what that is for people that aren't from your household.
In the Dodson family, we call lamb kebabs dog's willies. It's a thing.
And for people that aren't in the UK,
anybody else do that?
He's talking about lamb kofta, so minced, spiced, Eastern flavoured lamb.
Yeah, dog's willies, you know.
It's disgusting.
I think it was probably my mum that came up with that one.
I think it might have been your mum.
Well, Dev could provide the dog's willies, couldn't he?
Can you stop saying that? Thank you. No wonder Toya's a vegetarian. See, what would she eat at your barbecue? Just
That's
corn
true.
on the
I
cob.
don't know. Corn on the cob. I think she
And
wouldn't get
halloumi.
much more than corn on the cob. Even halloumi. I don't mind halloumi. You got me into it a little bit.
Really?
Maybe a salad of a few slices of cucumber.
And what else? And what would you put as a dressing? Mayonnaise?
Oh gosh, no.
Gosh.
Balsamic.
Just vinegar.
Yeah. Bit of tomato, bit of cucumber.
Yeah. Anything
And
else?
then, some balsamic. I can't bother to do anything else. That's why I do a lot of preparation if you're not having anything to do with this.
No, I'm not helping.
Cutting
you.
up the individual tomatoes.
And what drinks are you providing?
Well, I'd have to ask for outside support because obviously other people would want alcohol and I'd have no idea.
But what would you say you were at the shop? What would you? look for?
Well, I know that Abby is a cider drinker. And I know from buying ciders for you over the years that if Abby were to be a guest at my barbecue, I would get some of those.
Yeah, but the ones I like are super, super strong. So I think that everyone would be completely drunk at your barbecue within an hour.
I like that then. Yeah, maybe I just need to have a barbecue with some of the kids.
The children of the street.
Yeah, invite round
Hope and Ruby.
Yeah, Hope and Ruby and Liam and Joseph and all that lot. That would be weird.
That would be weird, yeah. So there you go. That's our fantasy barbecue.
Fantasy barbecue.
I mean, it doesn't really sound like that much fun now. I really think about it. I'm not that keen on Alia, and I think Ryan would also like play music too loud, and he'd be like, "Oh, we need some music," and then he'd be obsessed with playing.
I'd like to
really
like Alia
boring.
better, and maybe inviting her around in a social situation might endear me towards her more.
It depends on whether people were really up for having a good time or if they're going to be defensive and weird, because this group of people definitely has the potential to get weird with each other and like not talk to each other. So don't think that, apart from obviously Toya, Imran, Nick and Leanne sort of being family, I just think that the rest of them don't really talk to each other that much.
I do see in this group Dev and Bernie being outsiders particularly. I mean,
I
Alia
think Dev
and
and
Toya
Brian
are friends, aren't they? Maybe.
I don't know, but Dev and Brian would get on like a house on fire because they're both just telling weird dad jokes.
Oh, that'd be fine then. That'd be
I
fine
think
then.
we can have
and
a
then
nice-
you could go and chav it out with Bernie. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd work. No worries. Right, we're done. Thank you very much to John and Navdeep for suggesting those questions this month.
That was fun.
I think John sent his question in a very, very long time ago.
I
but
know
that's-
some people have sent their questions in years ago and we haven't still
Yeah. They're
got
probably
round
thinking,
to
Did
them.
I ask that? Yeah, but no, I thought that was, especially with the barbecue one, very, very topical for this time of year.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Right.
If you've got any other
if you've
questions,
got
don't
any-
forget.
Yeah, send them in. We'll add them to the pile of documents.
Questions.
And if you have got any suggestions of your own for characters from the 60s or 70s that you think would fit in modern day Coronation Street, or indeed characters who you would like to invite to a barbecue at your own home, do feel free to write into us at conversationstreet@gmail.com and let us know.
We should have had a mashup question, characters from the 60s that you'd invite to a barbecue now.
Oh, they wouldn't know what most of the food was, especially if you were going with one of your spicery barbecues.
They
Imagine
would
Mavis
be confused.
coming along to this.
Like this.
Yeah, they'd be more suited to my plain sausage and burger.
I will
Barbie.
cook people a plate. If this, I cater to what people like, but I'm most excited to share my interest in food with people who have a similar feeling about it than I do. When mum and dad came round the other day, I cooked quite a plain.
You did, yeah, that was nice.
It was just burgers and sausages and chicken and ribs.
Yes, it was indeed. Do we get marshmallows at this barbecue? We haven't even discussed them. I would
Yes,
want that.
big giant ones from Costco.
Yeah, maybe make some s'mores.
Maybe.
Right, goodbye
Now we're definitely
everybody.
done.
Thank you for listening. We are done, and we'll be back midweek next week with our thoughts on the next bunch of episodes to be dumped on the ITV hub. So until then, have a good week and a couple of
Whatever.
days, and see you then. Ta-ra for now.
Bye.
Goodbye.